Today, we're going to talk about a connection that is absolutely fundamental to your mental and physical well-being, but one that is often overlooked. That is the connection between your gut and your brain. Many of you have likely experienced periods of so-called brain fog, where it's difficult to focus. Or perhaps you've noticed subtle shifts in your memory or mood that you can't quite explain. It's very likely that these cognitive experiences are not originating in your head, but rather in your gut. Chronic low-grade inflammation in the gut can directly and profoundly impact your brain's ability to function, creating a cascade of effects that disrupt everything from your concentration to your emotional state. The communication pathway between the gut and the brain is a bidirectional superhighway, and when there's a roadblock, in this case inflammation, the messages get garbled, or worse, they become toxic. This isn't just a vague feeling, it's a physiological reality. Inflammatory signals originating from a distressed gut can cross into the brain, altering its chemistry and structure. This can manifest as difficulty learning new things, a persistent low mood, or that frustrating feeling of mental fatigue that a good night's sleep just can't seem to fix. In today's video, we're going to break down the precise biological mechanisms by which gut inflammation hijacks your cognitive function. We will delve into the science of the gut-brain axis, leaky gut, inflammatory cytokines, and neurotransmitter disruption. More importantly, we're going to discuss actionable, science-supported tools and protocols that you can implement to reduce gut inflammation, heal your gut lining, and thereby restore cognitive clarity and emotional balance. We will cover everything from diet and supplements to stress modulation techniques that you can start using today. To understand how your gut health dictates your mental state, we first have to appreciate the incredible communication network that exists between these two organs. This is often referred to as the gut-brain axis. It's a bidirectional highway, meaning information flows constantly from the gut to the brain and from the brain back to the gut. This communication occurs through several parallel pathways. The most direct route is the vagus nerve, a massive nerve that extends from the brainstem down to the abdomen, physically connecting the two. But information is also carried through the bloodstream via hormones, and critically, through signaling molecules produced by your immune system, which has a massive presence in the gut. When your gut is healthy, this communication is seamless, a well-orchestrated symphony that regulates mood, hunger, and even complex cognitive processes. However, when inflammation takes hold in the gut, due to poor diet, stress, or other factors, it's like a major accident that shuts down multiple lanes on this highway. The signals become distorted. Instead of sending messages of calm and proper function, an inflamed gut starts sending alarm signals. These inflammatory signals, carried by the immune system and the bloodstream, travel up to the brain, essentially telling it that there is a problem. This constant state of alert is the first step in how gut issues begin to degrade your mental clarity and focus. Let's drill down into a specific and critical mechanism called intestinal hyperpermeability, more commonly known as leaky gut. Your intestinal lining is an incredible barrier. It's made up of a single layer of cells stitched together by protein structures called tight junctions. Their job is to be selectively permeable, meaning they allow vital nutrients from the food you digest to pass into your bloodstream while keeping out undigested food particles, microbes, and toxins. When your gut is chronically inflamed, these tight junctions can become damaged and loosen. They essentially unzip, creating gaps in this protective barrier. Now, with this barrier compromised, substances that should have remained safely contained within the gut can leak into your systemic circulation. One particularly problematic substance is a molecule called lipopolysaccharide, or LPS. LPS is a component of the outer wall of certain bacteria in your gut. It's a potent endotoxin. When LPS leaks into your bloodstream, your immune system mounts a massive inflammatory response. This systemic inflammation can then compromise another critical barrier, the blood-brain barrier. This barrier is designed to protect your brain, but chronic inflammation can make it leaky as well, allowing inflammatory molecules and other toxins, including LPS itself, to enter the brain, where they can cause direct neural inflammation and damage. Once those inflammatory signals from the gut reach the brain, they trigger a response from the brain's own resident immune cells, primarily cells called microglia. In a healthy state, microglia perform essential housekeeping functions, clearing out debris and supporting neuronal health. However, when they are persistently activated by inflammatory signals originating from the gut, like the LPS we just discussed, they switch into a pro-inflammatory state. They begin to release their own barrage of inflammatory molecules right inside the brain. These molecules are called cytokines, and they include things like interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. This localized storm of cytokines within the brain has profound effects on your ability to think. These molecules can directly interfere with synaptic plasticity, which is the biological process underlying all learning and memory. They can impair the formation of new memories and make it harder to recall existing ones. Furthermore, this neuroinflammatory state has been shown to reduce levels of a crucial molecule called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which is like a fertilizer for your brain cells, promoting their growth and survival. The result is a brain that is literally under attack from within, making sustained focus, learning, and clear thinking exceptionally difficult. Many people are honestly surprised to learn that a vast majority, over 90%, of the body's serotonin is actually produced in the gut, not the brain. Serotonin is a critical neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger that plays a huge role in regulating mood, feelings of well-being, and happiness. It also has functions related to focus and cognition. Now, the production of serotonin in the gut is heavily influenced by the health of your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living there. Specific strains of beneficial bacteria are directly involved in synthesizing serotonin and other key neurotransmitters, like GABA and dopamine. When gut inflammation is present, it disrupts the delicate balance of this microbiome, a condition known as dysbiosis. The populations of beneficial neurotransmitter-producing bacteria can plummet, while populations of harmful, pro-inflammatory bacteria can thrive. This directly leads to a reduction in the raw materials and production capacity for crucial mood-regulating neurotransmitters. With lower levels of serotonin and GABA, you're more likely to experience mood swings, anxiety, and a persistent low feeling. The lack of dopamine can manifest as a deficit in motivation and an inability to concentrate on tasks. Your emotional state and cognitive drive are, in a very real sense, being held hostage by the state of your gut. Your brain is, honestly, an incredibly energy-intensive organ. Despite making up only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes about 20% of your body's total oxygen and calories. For your brain to function optimally, for you to feel sharp, focused, and alert, it requires a constant and robust supply of energy, primarily in the form of glucose and oxygen, delivered via blood flow. Gut inflammation can sabotage this energy supply chain in several ways. Firstly, systemic inflammation can contribute to insulin resistance, a condition where your body's cells, including brain cells, become less responsive to the hormone insulin. This impairs their ability to take up glucose from the bloodstream, effectively starving them of their primary fuel source. Secondly, chronic inflammation can negatively impact the health of your mitochondria, which are the tiny power plants inside every one of your cells, including your neurons. Inflammatory cytokines can damage mitochondria, making them less efficient at producing ATP, the fundamental energy currency of the cell. This leads to a brain-wide energy deficit. Furthermore, inflammation can affect vascular function, potentially reducing cerebral blood flow. When you combine impaired glucose uptake, inefficient energy production, and reduced oxygen delivery, the net result is profound mental fatigue and that classic feeling of brain fog. Your brain simply doesn't have the metabolic resources it needs to perform at its peak. Let's talk about the connection between gut inflammation and your stress response system. This system is known as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or HPA axis. It's the pathway that governs your body's reaction to stress, culminating in the release of the stress hormone cortisol from your adrenal glands. In a healthy individual, the HPA axis is tightly regulated. It activates in response to a genuine threat and then shuts off. However, the constant, low-grade threat signal sent by an inflamed gut can lead to chronic activation and dysregulation of this axis. The brain perceives the internal inflammation as a persistent stressor. This chronic activation keeps cortisol levels elevated, which has numerous detrimental effects on the brain. High cortisol can damage the hippocampus, a brain region crucial for memory and for regulating the HPA axis itself, creating a kind of vicious feedback loop. It can also disrupt the balance of neurotransmitters in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for executive functions like decision-making and emotional regulation. This is why people with significant gut issues often report feeling perpetually overwhelmed, anxious, or emotionally volatile. Their stress response system is essentially stuck in the on position, not because of external life stressors, but because of the inflammatory fire burning in their gut. So, what is causing this gut inflammation in the first place? For many people, the primary culprits are found right in their own homes and daily routines. The modern Western diet is a major driver. Diets high in ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, industrial seed oils like soybean and corn oil, and artificial additives create a pro-inflammatory environment in the gut. These foods feed harmful bacteria, starve the beneficial ones, and can directly irritate the gut lining. It's not just about what you eat, but also what you're not eating. A lack of fiber from diverse plant sources deprives your microbiome of the prebiotics it needs to thrive. Beyond diet, other common triggers exist. Chronic psychological stress, as we've discussed, is a powerful instigator of gut inflammation through the HPA axis. Certain medications, while necessary for some conditions, can also take a toll. Overuse of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs, like ibuprofen, is known to damage the gut lining. Similarly, antibiotics, while life-saving, can wipe out large portions of your beneficial gut bacteria, leaving the door open for dysbiosis. Even disruptions to your circadian rhythm, poor sleep or inconsistent sleep-wake cycles, can negatively impact gut health and promote inflammation. Identifying and mitigating these common triggers is the first step toward healing. Now for the actionable tools. How do we actively reduce inflammation and heal the gut? The foundation is an anti-inflammatory diet. This involves removing the inflammatory triggers we just mentioned, and crucially, adding in foods that actively heal. This means prioritizing whole, unprocessed foods. Think of a diet rich in colorful vegetables and fruits, which are packed with anti-inflammatory polyphenols. Healthy fats from sources like avocados, olive oil, and fatty fish, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, are essential for building healthy cell membranes. High-quality protein is needed for tissue repair, and fiber from a wide variety of plant sources is the preferred food for your beneficial gut microbes. On top of this dietary foundation, certain supplements can provide targeted support. L-glutamine is an amino acid that serves as a primary fuel source for the cells of your intestinal lining, helping to repair those leaky tight junctions. Probiotics, which are live beneficial bacteria, can help repopulate the gut, while prebiotics, which are specific types of fiber, act as food for those good bacteria. Other compounds like zinc, deglycyrrhizinated licorice, often called DGL, and marshmallow root can also have gut-soothing and healing properties. Finally, implementing robust stress management protocols is non-negotiable. This could include a daily meditation practice, breath work, spending time in nature, or ensuring you get adequate high-quality sleep. When you implement these protocols, it's incredibly motivating to be able to track your progress. How do you know if it's working? You can, of course, pursue clinical testing. There are advanced stool tests that can analyze your microbiome composition and inflammatory markers. There are also blood tests that can measure markers of systemic inflammation like C-reactive protein, or CRP, or check for nutrient deficiencies. These can provide valuable, objective data. However, you don't need to start with expensive tests. There are powerful subjective and behavioral measures you can use right away. I encourage you to start by creating your own tracking system. One simple tool is a brain fog scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being crystal clear and 1 being severely foggy, rate your mental clarity each day. You can do the same for your mood, energy levels, and even digestive symptoms. Keep a simple journal or use a note-taking app on your phone. Note what you ate, how you slept, and what stress management you did. Over a period of weeks, you can look back at this log and see clear patterns emerge. As your gut heals, you should see a clear upward trend in your mental clarity, mood, and energy scores. This subjective data is powerful and provides the positive feedback needed to maintain these new habits. To make this more concrete, let's consider a brief, anonymized case study, a composite of many individuals I've worked with. Let's call her Sarah, a 35-year-old professional who came in complaining of debilitating brain fog, trouble remembering names at work, and a persistent low mood that she described as a gray cloud. She was a high achiever, but her cognitive performance was suffering, causing her immense stress. Her diet consisted heavily of convenient processed foods, and she drank multiple cups of coffee to combat her constant fatigue. She also reported frequent bloating and digestive discomfort. We implemented a protocol focused entirely on healing her gut. We started by eliminating processed foods, gluten, and dairy for a 30-day period, and introduced a whole foods anti-inflammatory diet rich in vegetables, healthy fats, and quality protein. We also added targeted supplements, L-glutamine to help heal her gut lining and a high-quality probiotic. Crucially, we implemented a non-negotiable 10-minute daily mindfulness meditation practice to manage her stress. Within 2 weeks, she reported her bloating had vanished. By week 4, she described her brain fog as lifting for the first time in years. After 2 months, her mood had stabilized, her energy was consistent throughout the day, and her performance at work had not only returned to baseline, but had exceeded it. This wasn't magic. It was a direct result of quieting the inflammatory fire in her gut. As we've explored today, the connection between your gut and your brain is not just a passing curiosity. It is a fundamental pillar of your overall health. Your ability to think clearly, to maintain a stable and positive mood, to learn and to remember, is inextricably linked to the environment within your digestive system. Taking care of your gut is not just about avoiding digestive discomfort. It is one of the most powerful levers you can pull to enhance your cognitive function and safeguard your long-term brain health. The science is clear. A calm, healthy gut fosters a sharp, resilient brain. Understanding these complex mechanisms is the first step, but the real power lies in application. It can feel overwhelming to consider changing your diet, starting supplements, and managing stress all at once. I want to emphasize that you do not need to do everything perfectly from day one. The goal is not perfection, but consistent, positive direction. Progress, not perfection, is what leads to sustainable change and lasting results. The key is to build momentum through small, manageable actions that you can integrate into your life. So I encourage you to start small. Pick just one thing from our discussion today and commit to it for the next week. Maybe it's swapping your usual processed breakfast for a protein and fiber-rich smoothie. Perhaps it's adding a tablespoon of fermented food like sauerkraut to one meal a day. Or maybe it's committing to a 5-minute breathwork session before you start your workday. Choose one thing, make it your focus, and build from there. By taking that first small step today, you are sending a powerful signal of healing from your gut to your brain.